Yo, what's going on, guys? So I'm going to do a video covering the Cordite SMG for Black Ops 4. So this was requested by Gabriel in my last video on the Hades op mod, and he wanted me to cover the Cordite and the belt feed operator mod and what I thought was the best way to play with it. So I'm basically just going to cover that just like I did for the Hades and go over it for you guys and what I thought was the best way to use the gun. So I'm going to throw in a 77 kill game. I believe it's on firing range, I want to say. And I was trying to go for something a little bit better, something with like more kills and more action to really show off the strengths of the gun. But I also think that this gameplay is kind of entertaining as well. And I was sort of struggling also to get back into the groove of things because I just haven't been playing that much recently. I was busy with school, and so now that I'm done with school, I'm trying to get back into the game. So I'm going to be playing a lot for the update coming Tuesday with Zero and all the new weapons and stuff. So I'm going to be getting back into it and making more videos and stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. Peace out. So in order to keep myself organized, I'm going to be keeping my game open, and I'm going to be glancing over at that to keep myself from forgetting what I actually had on my gun. So to start off, obviously I have the Cordite as my primary, and I threw on the reflex sight because I couldn't really get used to the iron sights of the Cordite. It was really rough for me to use, and I sort of found myself losing enemies with how big the iron sight was. But I know it's not as bad as some of the other weapons, like most SMGs. They have actually have decent iron sights besides the GKS Unicorn variant, which had a really big iron sight. It sort of reminded me of the Cordite, which was why I couldn't use the iron sight. So I do suggest running the reflex sight if you sort of have an issue with tracking like I do. I pretty much need the reflex for a lot of guns that have those bulky iron sights, but that's completely up to you. If you can handle the iron sights, you know, you don't really need that, obviously. For my attachments, there's a lot of actually good choices here for what you could use, you know, laser sight, grip, extended mags, but you don't really need that if you're running the op mod. But the long barrel is also pretty helpful if you are able to handle the recoil for those medium to long range kills, but I found myself struggling a little bit with how fast the gun shot and how heavy the recoil was as well. So I found myself using the grip, and I found that to be a little bit more useful than anything else. Rapid fire, maybe if you're playing like Nuketown and you're just running around hip firing people, but grip seemed to be more useful for my playstyle. I was also trying to go for, you know, medium to long range kills if I could, but getting those long range kills was sort of a struggle with this gun just because of how fast it shoots. And, you know, SMGs at long range really aren't amazing compared to everything else that you could be using. So I found myself just rotating to that grip, you know, after trying a couple different other things. And of course, for my last attachment, I was using the belt feed. I believe in the gameplay I was using the belt feed operator mod, which puts the ammo count to 600, and it makes it so that you never have to reload the gun, but if you shoot it too much, it'll start overheating and you can't shoot the gun until it's cooled down. So I'll just cover my perks and my secondaries and stuff really quick. It's the same stuff I always use: Heli on Salvo, Stim Shot, Engineer, Gung Ho. Gung Ho because I did find myself hip firing a lot, and being able to sprint at people while hip firing was pretty useful. But besides that, I've already explained a lot of you know, what Engineer does and Stim Shot and Heli on Salvo, and by this point in the game most people already know what it does, so there's no point in me covering it again or why I really use it. Most people already know if you've seen any of my other like class set of videos or any other videos that I made. So I'm going to talk about the belt feed really quick and my thoughts on the belt feed and if it's actually worth it. For the 2 points that it costs to actually use it, honestly I don't think the belt feed is worth it, just because of the fact that it overheats and you have to wait for it to cool down. Because I found myself a couple times, you know, I was shooting at 3 or 4 people and I would have to run away from the fight because my gun started overheating and I couldn't shoot for a good 10 to 15 seconds. It takes a really long time to cool down, and I think it would be much better off if you just use extended mags instead of the belt feed. So the extended mags puts it up to 90 bullets, which for the most part you really don't need much more than 90 bullets, you know, for an SMG. You'll use maybe 30 or 40 of that and then you have to reload and you're fine, you know. You're not going to be chaining kills along like that long. At least I never really need more than 90 bullets, you know. At some point I will reload, and the gun already has a pretty quick reload speed that I found myself really not needing that belt feed, because it's just another factor that you really have to pay attention to when you're using it. If your gun overheats mid gunfight, like, you're screwed, you know. There's nothing you can really do. I guess if you have a secondary you could probably kill him with that, but using the Cordite, you know, you're most likely, not too many people are going to be running secondaries besides maybe a launcher, or maybe they'll take off their secondary to run more perks or another attachment or something, you know. I just found myself dying a lot because of the belt feed, and having to concentrate on that other factor of making sure it doesn't overheat was too much for me to concentrate on in my, every game that I played. It was just not worth it to me. So after using the belt feed for a little while, I took it off and decided to make a class with the Cordite that I felt was a little bit stronger and played to its strengths a little bit more, and the powerfulness of the gun was really more in just how many actually good attachments you can stack on, and not more in the op mod. Like the Hades, its strength was really the op mod. That was the only way to really use the gun that I found and still do extremely well. But with the Cordite, I feel like you don't need the op mod. So what I was running was the reflex, the grip, the extended mags, and the laser sight. And this was a setup that I think I did a lot better with and was way more consistent with, as I was able to just reload my gun, and I never had the issue where I was running out of ammo. Really, I never had that issue of dying while I was reloading, just because the reload is so quick and it already holds so much bullets that you don't have to reload as often, and you also don't have to wait for it to cool down, or you don't have to worry about it overheating or whatnot. It's just a normal gun with a lot of ammo that shoots fast, and it's a lot of fun to use. And the laser sight pairs really well with the gung ho, because you're able to sort of chase people down while hip firing, and the hip fire spread, because it's an SMG, is so tight, it allows you to run around pretty much freely on the map while hip firing people and maintaining that accuracy that you need. And the grip is for more of those medium range kills. I honestly struggled a lot with the long range kills. I got them sometimes, but it was never consistent, and it honestly it was pretty rough. The recoil kind of threw me off a lot, and that fire rate is really hard to even just burst it down. It's really hard to control, in my opinion. But I did have a lot more success, I found, without the op mod, and just stacking grip, extended mags, and laser sight. So the gun's strengths really do play off of that close range and medium range. Like I said, you're not going to be getting consistent long range kills, but in close range it's really good. It's got a really fast fire rate, like I said, and if you throw on the rapid fire instead of maybe like a grip or a laser sight, I could see it doing even better in those close range gunfights, like on small maps like slums or Nuketown. If you play a lot of Nuketown, I don't really get Nuketown that much, I noticed, after the 24/7 playlist, but even on things like firing range, if you're running the flank and stuff, you'll be able to consistently get around and get close to people. I think that rapid fire might be a good choice to swap out for one of these perks, but I do suggest keeping the extended mags on, just because that extra 30 bullets really does come in handy sometimes, and it will save your ass a couple times as well if you're, finding yourself reloading a lot, which you might with the 60 bullets. That 30 bullet count can actually help out a lot in most of your gunfights. And I also sort of skipped over this, I just remembered. Pretty much trying to play on the flank is really good with this gun, even though it doesn't have a suppressor. For the most part, a lot of 1v1 head-to-head gunfights where maybe you're taking on like a full health enemy, like you will pretty consistently in the game, it sort of felt off sometimes. Like I felt like I was putting a lot of bullets into people, and they would just shoot me a few times and I would die. And I think that's just the fire rate of the gun sort of takes away from the damage, so you really have to be consistent with hitting your shots. I found that being sort of an issue for me sometimes. Like it was hard to chain kill. Like say I would be shooting like 2 or 3 people on a hard point, most of the time I would just get wiped before I can even get 1 or 2 people. It was sort of a struggle with that, so trying to play a little bit more sneaky so that people aren't expecting you to come through certain doors, and playing off of that, I found was one of the best ways to use the gun as well. Not just rushing straight into spawns and stuff all the time. It's not really a gun that can handle that extremely well, at least in the games that I was playing. I didn't find it to be that useful for just bum rushing spawns. But it is a fun gun to use, and it's a strong gun when you play to its strengths, the close range. So I think I covered pretty much everything about the gun that I found while using it, so I hope it helps you guys out. And if you guys are looking for something new and fun to use, I do suggest playing with the Cordite a little bit and just sort of running around, but still playing safe, playing on the flank and stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.